So while it is still cold and freezing and all in between outside, it is heating up inside PPG Paint Arena. The Penguins have been red hot as of late, no matter what the weather may tell you. Mike Asti here, another episode of Mic Drop here, made possible by the Believe Network, available everywhere you get your podcasts and on SiriusXM. And we're going to take a pause a bit from the football talk of the recent episodes and talk hockey, talk Pittsburgh Penguins surprise season for most, probably, depending on what your expectations were entering the year. And to have that conversation, I am going to be joined by Josh Yohe of The Athletic. Josh, it's been a minute. How have you been, man? I know it's a wild season. Another one of those for you.
It has
how many in are you actually covering the Penguins?
Oh my God. I think this is my 16th.
Okay.
16th or 17th. It's to the point where I don't like telling people. It might sound impressive on a resume, but it's like, oh God, I'm old. No, it's always good to be on the air with you, my friend. Yeah. And I didn't think we'd be speaking on February 2nd about the Pittsburgh Penguins and their playoff chances and things of that nature. But man, what a season it's been.
100%. And it's not even really playoff chances. It's almost playoff lock, barring a crazy final couple months of the season at this point, really, as the Penguins have really managed to propel themselves up the standings. They have been red hot as of late. They are behind, of course, Carolina in the Metropolitan Division, but 67 points as we're speaking, and we're in front of a game, of course. But yeah, February 2nd, this team, almost 70 points already on the board, 28 victories. They've been red hot as of late. So as we get started here, and I do want to touch on the Russ suspension, maybe what to expect at the trade deadline, the Olympic break as well. Maybe this is simple, and maybe no one has an answer, or maybe the expectations were just wrong entering the year, which is maybe what the players would say. How and why are the Penguins doing this? How are they having the surprise season in which they are a legit playoff team, borderline contender beyond that, when most people, even fans, media, nationally, thought this team would maybe be one of the worst teams in hockey? And really, there were even some rumblings from even kind of what it sounded like from Kyle Dubas, that he wouldn't have minded. Okay, it's a rebuilding year. Maybe we're going to have it be a process. The sky is not falling if we don't win the cup this year. But don't tell Crosby and company that, because they feel like they have a legit chance this season.
Well, and it always starts with the big guys. The fact is, Sid is still Sid. Malkin is a much better player this season. Yeah. He's made it very clear he doesn't want to retire. He wants another contract, and he's playing like it. Erik Karlsson is a million times better this season than he was the last two. So you can start with your big guys, but the name you mentioned was Kyle Dubas, and I give him most of the credit. He's the one that decided to bring in Dan Muse, and clearly he's made a difference. You can't deny that this is a team that feels refreshed. That changing coaches works in the NHL. I don't know why. It's a great short-term fix. Nothing less.
Yeah, they do it a lot. It's a league where they do it more than other leagues, really.
Boy, do they ever. But when you look at what Dubas has done in the last year, they are just so much better on paper this season than last. They have made upgrades everywhere, whether it be getting Parker Wotherspoon for $1 million a year. He has been a really good, legitimate top four defenseman for $1 million. Justin Brazeau and Anthony Mantha, you got them for peanuts. Like, Brazeau's going to score 20, Mantha's going to score 25 or 30. Those are huge upgrades over what they had. Frankly, even though Jari was off to a good start, to trade Jari for Skinner, Skinner's been an upgrade. Brett Kulak has been an upgrade over what they had. Ben Kindle, drafting him with the 11th overall pick, I think it was, and having him become kind of a sensation in his rookie season. Again, that's an upgrade over what they had. So you got like 7 or 8 different positions where you just clearly have better players than you had last season. That's really the biggest thing here. I know that simplifies things, but the general manager is just like on an all-time heater, and that's why they are where they are.
The funny thing is, though, everyone knew Kyle Dubas' track record, and he's kind of been a trade swindler even before coming to Pittsburgh. Most people thought it was a great addition to bring him aboard. And yet, I don't know if you think maybe we all underestimated him or what, or even the care factor of this year, because it was maybe a rebuilding process, but very few predicted this. Even people who thought they would be better than maybe expectations, no one predicted this. I mean, anyone who's
No.
out there on February 2nd that said they predicted 67 points and legitimately a chance to win a division title is just lying. So, did we underestimate Kyle Dubas? Did we underestimate the players? Why do you think the expectations were so down when we know the track record of Dubas? We know the track record of Crosby and company. We see the players on the team. Even after all these moves, or most of these moves were made, outside of course, Skinner coming over, people still thought this team wouldn't win. And there was a roller coaster ride this year. They started out, the way they did. Then it dipped after going to Sweden, and then it's now back to where it is.
Well, I mean, listen, they've been in sell mode for the last 2 years. So when you're in sell mode and your best players are all pushing 40, there's no reason to think something like this could happen. And even Dubas, not so much this season, but I remember last season, I asked him before the year, so this is almost like a year and a half ago. I asked him about, the potential of this still being a playoff caliber team. And he basically told me to pump the brakes and that this team wasn't that good. That's essentially what he was saying.
That's what it felt like. That was kind of the messaging from him since he got there, that, hey, I obviously want to win and do things to win, but don't buy tickets to a parade in June just yet. Like, let me get to work. And
it's so interesting. He's been in sell mode, but it's almost like he's too good at the job to get himself a top 5 pick, because he goes out and gets people like Wotherspoon and Brazo, Mantha, even Shelovs has been an upgrade over Nedeljkovic. He just went bargain shopping and he nailed every single one. Usually, some of those guys work out and some of them don't. In this case, they've literally all worked out. Not to mention, he obviously nailed the head coach, who clearly knows what he's doing. So,
right.
And we have to keep in mind the Metropolitan Division's terrible, and that does help them. They're it's like the equivalent of the NFC South or what. Like it's not a good division.
Yeah, sure.
But that's okay. Like, honestly, I've talked with a lot of people,
and they wins over great teams though that aren't in that division. Like, they beat Detroit back-to-back games, who right now is a legit contender for sure. So unlike the NFC South, they have some resume building wins, even if not in their division.
No, they do. I mean, they're 1-0-1 against Tampa this year, which most people will tell you that's the best team in the East. On paper, they certainly are. And on paper, they're probably the only team that's like clearly better than the Penguins. But it's to the point now where, we have these analytics on the Athletic site, and I think there's like puck or whatever, all these different things like the playoff percentages. They all have the Penguins around like 80 or 85 or 90% chance to make the playoffs.
That's what I mean.
It would be a collapse if they don't get in. And now you kind of fast forward, if they do get in. Okay, who are you going to get in the first round? The Islanders? Like, they could beat them. Like, they're not that good. They're okay.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
And Carolina's always been a problem for the Penguins, but Carolina can't win in the playoffs. I mean,
occasionally
And the Penguins did beat them. No, it would actually be a pretty reasonable draw if you're interested in them making some kind of a run. It's amazing that we're having this conversation, but that's the reality of how good they've been.
Yeah, and I mean, even if you get really going down the entire conference, whether in their division or not, yes, Detroit's looked very, very good, but they haven't done this for 9 years. So would it shock anybody if they are an easy out early, or even if they make a dark horse conference final run? The Penguins would probably be licking their chops. Like, these kids haven't done this besides Kane. We have the experience. So the Penguins do have a lot of favorable matchups that are possibilities if they would get in. And as I mentioned at the top, and this would just be, can you imagine the reaction if somehow they would slide? They would still be above expectations from what everybody thought in the summer. But now if they don't get in based on what we're saying, it's going to be looked upon as a colossal failure when the same record would probably have been fine. But right now it feels like that would be really unforeseen to occur based on, what's in front of them and then the stretch run. And even the games in front, they have a lot of clumped together schedule games with teams that they're familiar with that they should beat as well after the Olympic break. Josh Yohe here of The Athletic, Mic Drop here with Believe and on Sirius XM. And Josh, what I wanted to flip to, because part of the fan perception of this maybe being a rebuilding year coming into the season was even comments from Dubas on down And then even, which I'm sure you recall, what now is like the infamous Sidney Crosby outside of a season ticket holder's house telling all the media, it's pro sports, guys. Like, I'm trying to win. What are we asking me here? It kind of seemed a little bit like a weird setting for him to be the most frustrated with a question from the media in years. But you get that to here. And back then, everyone thought, okay, Eric Carlson and company, they're going to get traded mid-season. This is going to be a team that would sell again. You then would believe in Dubas to do right for next year, but this year would be a selling type of season. I mean, obviously you can't go to Sidney Crosby and say you're selling anybody now based on what they're doing. So how do you expect Dubas to go about the deadline and the rest of the season based on where this team is now? And how much do you think that honestly is a departure from his plan? Or was that just fans kind of reading into things too much that he almost was punting the year?
Well, I think there's probably something of a departure from the plan. I don't think he's losing focus of the big picture, which is still the future, as it should be.
Right. Sure.
But yeah, you said it. You're not going to, be sitting in your office and have 87 come in and say, "Hey, Sid, we're going to trade Brian Russ and Eric Carlson. Is that cool?" Like, no.
For some draft picks, right? Yeah.
And I can tell Dubas, the Penguins gave up 4 goals in the third period the other day against the Rangers. They still won. And I walked past Dubas 5 minutes after the game, and he has looked at me and like breathed a big sigh of relief. Like you could tell, like he is so competitive. And there was a game, and you'll remember the first game in Sweden when they blew a lead in the final minute against the Predators and lost in overtime. Dubas slammed his door in his office when we were walking past. He was so mad. Like, nah, he wants to win.
That seemed like the Penguin team we expected, though. That seemed like, okay, they're coming to life. This is going to be the story. And then they turned it on again around Christmas.
But he gave a press conference. It was actually the day of the Jari Skinner trade. And he came right out and said, "Yeah, I think we're good. Like, I do. And I want to make the playoffs." Like, he was very clear about it. And okay, so that gives us 2 scenarios here. Number one, which I think is most likely, I think he'll make some kind of a deal at the deadline. Yes. I think he'll maybe a depth defenseman, which you always need. And now Letang and St. Ivany are both out for a while. They could certainly use another defenseman. I would guess you'll see him do something like that. Give up an asset, but we're not talking a first-round pick or Rucker McCordy or something. We're don't worry, Miroshov's not going anywhere, right? But still, they have so many picks. They can do something like that, and they're not going to hurt their rebuild or whatever you want to call it. So that's one possibility, and I think that's most likely. It's also conceivable if you want to do a hockey trade, like there's going to be hockey trades that are made, if you will, because there are so few teams that are sellers, because everybody thinks they have a chance.
This is a weird year. Yeah.
Everyone has a chance to get in. So you're not going to have teams just selling off veterans for 4th round draft picks. Listen, this is like the crazy wild card, but we're here to have fun. Like Jason Robertson's names, I've written about it. Like, we don't know if Dallas can sign him. It looks like they might not be able to. And if that's the case, I know the Penguins love him. I know they have the assets and the cap space to get him. Now, that would take like a Ricard Raquel or a Brian Russ as a starting point and a bunch of other stuff. So I don't think that's going to happen, especially during the season, but it's conceivable, something like that. Then you have the option where, Dubas can say, "Hey, I just got Chinnikov. He's really good. That was our big pickup. Like, I'm not going to do anything. And that way I've got all my picks in June. I've got we've got all the prospects. We've got all the cap space. And hey, this team's good. Why would I touch it?"
You're at least not selling. You're just staying pat.
And there's not, I mean, they just can't right now. I mean, in the summer, we'll see. I mean, you can always tinker. I think there's going to be a lot of moves in the summer. They have so much cap space. They're going to try to make trades. There's a lot of stuff we're going to see happen in the summer, but things are going so well right now. And the city's really into this team. You can feel it. They're on a roll. I don't know that he'll do a whole. I bet he'll bring in another defenseman, like a third pairing defenseman, which I think they could use. But I don't think he's going to do a ton right now, and I don't think that's a bad move.
Yeah, and Dubas is such a smart guy, and it's great that you brought up that press conference where he basically literally said, "We want to make the playoffs." It almost felt like, and I don't cover the team every day like you do, that he did that for a reason, because he's aware that fans and media kind of thought they were going to have a rebuilding year. So he wanted to make it clear to the fans, hey, whatever you're reading months ago was wrong. We want to make the playoffs. Our bad for giving you the wrong message. Come back, and we're going to make this a great 3 or 4 months in a row. Like if
Yeah.
this was maybe 2017, that wouldn't have had to be said. But it's almost like he wants the message clear. Even though we're not going to sell the farm, like say maybe
Mhm.
Jim Rutherford did at times because he wanted to win right now, and that was the directive.
Mhm.
That Dubas still wants to win now, even if it's not going to be giving up a first round pick for, say, Panarin. Like maybe that trade doesn't happen regardless of cap space, but it's a win now team. And he may honestly, as you're saying, think they can legitimately make a conference final run or get the cup final because of how wide open it is, even if they don't make a Panarin trade or the equivalent of Marian Hossa coming over years and years ago.
And what's interesting to me is he made those comments in the middle of December when they were playing terribly. They were in the middle of their tailspin.
Right.
And he could have very easily come out then and said, well, I'm going to let the team dictate, what happens. If they start playing better, sure, we'll try to make the playoffs. If they don't, then I'm going to have some tough decisions.
That's a typical GM comment. Yeah.
He didn't say that though. He said, no, I think we're good. And I took it as I was standing 2 feet away from him when he said it. I think he means it. There was a sincerity there. And, a couple of weeks later, I'll never forget it. It was the practice after the holiday break. I think it was December 27th before they started the second half when they went to Chicago and killed the Blackhawks. I was talking with Sidney Crosby. And at that time, the Penguins had lost, 9 out of 10, I think it was. And many of them in historical, spectacular, embarrassing fashion. And Sid looks right at me and he goes, "Now we're good." I said, "Yeah, you sure?" I forget. I don't think I said that, but I was like, I said, "You're feeling pretty good." He said, "Hey," he said, "I know how those games ended when we blew all those leads, but we were also beating all those teams by 3 goals. Like we were actually doing some good things. We just had terrible third periods and fluky stuff happened." And that's very much a glass half full way to look at it. But I know what he means. Like
it's true. That is true. And if they would end up in a poor seeding or miss out on something or lose the division title by 2 games, know that fans are going to say, well, if you just didn't blow all those games before, you would be the 1 seed and winning the President's Trophy here, which again isn't necessarily needing to happen. And Crosby's normally a glass half full guy, but he's also not going to just throw BS out there if it's just ridiculous. Like he could easily send a message saying we need to do better, kind of hint that, we're messing up what could be better, but no, just to be so confident, not worried about it at all from the GM to the best player.
He's a believer.
That sent a message too, but yeah.
Oh, he thinks this team's good. You can feel it. I'm telling you. Like listen, Sidney Crosby, I think everybody knows by now he's a pretty nice guy. Sure. Everybody loves Sid.
Sure.
But I can tell you, there's just something different about him. Like he's just in a good mood all the time this year. He probably because they're winning, but he just he thinks this team's good. And they are just enjoying the ride right now. That they are, and I didn't see this coming. I don't think anybody did, but I also don't think it's particularly fluky at this point.
Not at this point, no. If we were talking 2 weeks ago, you could argue that. You could even argue, okay, they're killing the Blackhawks, but they are an admitted rebuilding team. But no, they've stacked wins against contending teams at this point. You win, so many games in a row or so many games out of a 10-game stretch in the NHL, you're doing something right. So, yeah, they get more than the benefit of the doubt right now, although it could easily go the other way because the odd part about this year is, Josh Yohe here of The Athletic joining me on Mic Drop. I'm sure in their heart of hearts, even though Crosby certainly cares about playing for his country, and so do others, that for the team, they'd love to just keep on rolling. Like, don't stop now. We are clicking. This is the best we've played all year in years. But now they're going to come up on a lull. And there's going to be many key players that are going to just be off. And I'm sure as professional athletes, they're going to work out and eventually get back there when the NHL allows them to practice again. But you could easily see a scenario where they come out of the Olympic break ice cold, no matter what the weather may say. I mean, there are going to be teams that do that. I know a lot of people nationally are talking, what's Detroit going to do? They've been so great, but they've never been in this spot. 2 weeks of no hockey for some of those guys, it could go down. Patrick Kane, for an example, maybe being upset about the Olympics. How is he going to play after? And there are other teams to point to. The Penguins have enough of a cushion now where they can withstand a losing streak and certainly still be a playoff team. But clearly they want more than to just squeak in and say, we told you we would at least get in.
Sure.
I mean, now they have to want more, obviously. So it'll be interesting what that looks like after the Olympic break. Have you heard anything from anybody with any comments of how they're even going to handle that or what you expect from that break, or how do you think that's going to go? Because the schedule then gets really jumbled up, and if you drop a game or two, these teams are really close together in the standings, despite the Penguins playing better than expected.
I will warn people, the Penguins have 17 games in March, which is a lot.
Yeah.
And 14 of those games are against teams that are in playoff position right now.
Right.
It's a brutal. There's one road trip that begins and
baseball
ends
series in there. Yeah.
There's one road trip that begins and ends in Raleigh, and in between is at Colorado and at Vegas and at Utah. It's just a murderer's row.
Yeah.
But as for the break, the good thing is, like, Geno Malkin's shoulder is really screwed up. You can see every game he's like looking at his shoulder. Mantha gave him a tap on the shoulder on the bench in Vancouver, and like he went down like he was shot. Like his shoulder's not 100%. I mean, it's a problem.
Yeah, no.
So getting 3 weeks off for him is a big deal. Chris Letang's got the broken foot, so getting all that time, it came at a good time for him.
Sure.
So that's good. And the Penguins, like, they've been good when they've had these long, they had the big break in Christmas and they came back and reset and played better. So maybe it won't impact them, but I think you're going to be worried. Like when they come back, it's like, okay, are they still the same team? Or did we wake
you
up?
Don't know. Yeah.
Did we wake up from this dream? Are they the Penguins again that we were expecting? But I think they'll be okay. And I think for a couple of reasons, the coach is really good. And Sidney Crosby, listen, he's going to have a lot of work to do in Milan, as we know, but he plays better the more he plays. He was better after the Four Nations when he was exhausted last year.
Yeah, he should be fine. Yeah.
So
he's always fine. He's always fine.
Yeah,
but it can't just be him. We saw the beginning of the year when it was kind of just him. That's not enough. We've seen that in years.
Of course not. But there's just like a professionalism with this team. Like, I think they'll be okay. And I'll tell you one thing. He didn't come out and say this to me, but I got the sense from Ben Kindle that he's really looking forward to having a couple of weeks off. Like, that's tough as an 18-year-old. He's not that big of a kid being in the NHL for the first time. Like, he's playing great, but I think it'll be a good thing for him. So I know why you're asking, but I think they'll be okay. I just have a feeling about this team. I think what we're seeing is pretty legitimate right now.
Yeah, and it also could be that even if they fade a little bit after the break, that they wouldn't be the only team. They're not the only team dealing with this. They're not the only team that's going to undergo that. And they're the only team that has Sidney Crosby, who is the one constant. I don't think anybody expects he will drop off, even if others do drop off. Skinner, it would be one that I'm waiting for the bloom to go off the rose a little bit there. I mean, he's played really, really well, but Oilers fans will tell you how will that go into the postseason, because Oilers fans blame him for not having a cup after the last 2 years. We will see how that goes. There's still going to be pressure in a weird way on some of these players to step up in the postseason, even though they're playing so well right now. Again, Josh Yohe here of The Athletic on Mic Drop. And this Penguin team, again, is performing to a level that I don't think anybody expected. Do you feel, though, you mentioned about Dubas's comments and about the excitement now back a little bit, certainly after the Steelers season closes out and now they have a coach and they're kind of just building a roster now. Do you really feel that's back, though? Because there have been some of your colleagues that have gone the other way and are starting to say that this team is playing so better than expectations. They should have more people at these games. The crowd should be better. There should be more conversation on social media. Shows like this still do better when you talk Steelers. Should that be the case, or do you think that's a bit overblown? Like, what do you think the vibe is right now? This does not feel like a city that thinks they're going to win a cup, but again, it's so wide open. There got to be some excitement that you'd imagine.
I think there is. I do think there's just an NFL oversaturation in our country. We're all obsessed with the NFL, myself included.
Sure.
It's the way it is. Whether it's the love of the game, the love of gambling.
That's the way they want it. That's why they moved the draft. That's what they want. Yeah. They win.
We're all dealing with that. Listen, attendance at PPG has been a problem for a number of reasons. The cost of tickets is worse than ever. The cost of concessions is worse than ever.
That's true.
It's $50 to park everywhere around the arena, literally.
Unless you go far. I mean, I got some hacks for people, but unless you go far and are willing to walk, right?
That's right. Yeah. Like, there's nothing to do around the arena. There never has been, which has always been a problem. So you add it all up, there are lots of little reasons. Has it been disappointing? Yeah. Now I will say the crowds that have been there have been like really enthusiastic. Like the real fans are showing up.
Sure.
But I have to think, especially after the Olympics, when you know how it is when spring is getting close. You smell that it's starting to get a little warmer. Like you like kind of.
I'm waiting for it, but yeah.
Me too. Like you can like smell the playoffs in the air when you're a hockey
Yeah.
person, right? Like it's that time of year, and it's been 4 years since the Penguins were in the playoffs. I really think the enthusiasm in the city is going to get ramped up the closer we get. This probably, maybe, will be the last time you ever see Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin in the playoffs together. That's a big deal, okay? And
big deal to them too. 100%.
Oh, you better believe it is to them.
Yeah.
And I mean, the passion will come from the fan base at that point. So I think there is an excitement. I agree that I'm surprised there's not more talk about it, because I think they're by far the best story in this city right now. I don't think there's a close second. I don't give a damn where Mike McCarthy's from. Like I'm sorry,
right.
like this.
Right.
This is supposed to be one of the worst teams in the league. They've got the 6th best win percentage in the league with Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin leading the way. Like, what else do you want? It's a great story.
Yeah, and in some cities, and even in Pittsburgh, of course, an NHL great story is not going to top a great NFL story. But Pittsburgh has been a city that, even though the Steelers will always reign supreme, that certainly since Sidney Crosby came aboard, that there has been an argument of, some called it Hockey Town, and that Pittsburgh really came alive. And it's easy to come alive when you have, generational talent after generational talent and Hall of Famers coming in and out, and you win 3 cups and you're always a playoff contender. It could be that the last several years where they're not, despite Crosby still being on the team and producing, maybe dissipated that excitement a little bit. And maybe the talk was overblown a decade ago, but you would imagine there would be more of that energy, even if not at the arena. Because, what you're saying about ticket prices and all that is very valid, but that should not affect social media numbers, ratings on TV,
right,
conversations at the grocery store. And those things are either down, if we can go off the metrics, or just don't feel like they're as prevalent. It could come back once we get through February. It could, you could even argue, and this happens in some cities and even happens to the league, which is what they got off the 4 Nations last year. I mean, they went from the 4 Nations to being talked about on First Take. Like, that would never happen. No. They may figure that being back in the Olympics is going to pop excitement to all of these contending cities right after the Olympic break that maybe wouldn't have been there even in other years. And certainly Pittsburgh could be one of them, even though it's normally a great hockey town in the first place. So that could happen. They could benefit off that Olympic.
It is a great hockey town. I also would suggest to you that it's a very spoiled hockey town.
Oh, yeah.
Like, really, for the last 40 years, with the exception of a few years, you've gotten either Lemieux or Yager or Crosby or Malkin. Yeah. I mean, man, so it's
people who remember before Lemieux are dating themselves, right? Like,
and so I think, Sidney Crosby, I've seen him play a bunch. Like, there's almost that sense, like other hockey cities would go crazy for that.
Well, let's be fair. Look at the attendance numbers of the X generation.
Wasn't great.
So if the team is perennially losing and admits we're not going to be good, the fans say, okay, well, we're going to save our money at home. And when they have Sidney Crosby and Lemieux and Yager and Hall of Famers and Evgeny Malkin, and they're basically the Golden State Warriors of the league, then of course they're going to pack it in, and you're going to have casual fans that are obsessed. Right. I think the one simplified part about this is it feels like during the prime of Crosby and during the Cup years and even years they would flounder in the playoffs but have great regular seasons, there was a lot more conversation among casual fans. Like, you and I are going to talk about this team no matter what. You're going to cover this team no matter what. But this year, it does not seem like the casual fans that were on the wagon years ago are back because they left a few years ago. That it seems like they've yet to get them back. And getting them back will help sell out the arena.
It will.
And I don't know what else they can do but win to get them back. I mean, they're playing well enough to get them back.
It's interesting. You're right. And I think those people are about to come back, just, the conversations in Giant Eagle, whatever. Like, I do.
Right. It could be.
But I can tell you this. Since COVID, there were 2 big things. 3 things. COVID, the ownership change from Mario Lemieux to Fenway,
which was negatively received,
and the team's regression around that time.
Right.
Those 3 things have contributed. I don't have the exact numbers in front of me. Their season ticket base is so much smaller now than it was 6 years ago.
And there you go.
I'm talking like a massive, like, I don't know the exact percentage, but like we're talking like maybe half the size of what it was. So it was very easy for them to sell out games in 2018 because they had already had 15,000 season tickets or whatever it was. It's not like that now. So they've got to build that back up. And so much, I hear from so many readers, Penguins fans, and it's never complaints about Sullivan or Muse or Dubas or Rutherford or Hextall maybe, but all they ever say to me is like, I miss Mario. Like I liked when Mario was the owner.
They like the visibility. I saw you brought this up before. That's the issue. The Fenway Sports Group has proven they can own a championship caliber pro sports franchise, even though they clearly didn't do that with the Penguins. But in Pittsburgh, they want the visibility. They don't want, here we're going to lead, the Red Sox, and don't talk to us. These other people will have the conversations and they're going to win, so you don't care. I don't even think if this team was a cup contender that the fans would love it as much as during the time when Lemieux was standing there, on the float and a part of it as well. They want the visibility, and no matter who you are, replacing Lemieux as that guy is going to be impossible. But to do it and then to go dark and basically not talk for 5 years as the team isn't good is not going to win you any favors.
I always tell people, like, Fenway, they're not bad owners.
Right.
Like, they're not, nobody who works for the Penguins like hates them on a personal level, and they have more money than God, so you don't have to worry about money, which is and that's the one thing about the Hoffman family, who is trying to. We'll see if the deal officially goes through here in the next few weeks.
No, that's different.
The one thing about them, and I actually hear wonderful things about them on a personal level. It's like really nice, good people. I don't know if they have the money to satisfy what it requires.
That's what it seemed when I looked into them as well when they were announced, and that's something that really no one's talking about, because it almost seems like that's like, oh, we don't want that to really be the case. But that type of ownership group, even going around sports, if you've noticed, that type of more mom and pop, we dug ourselves out of the dirt and now we're doing this. It's going away. If you look at what happened with the Bus family with the Lakers, it's almost like the Penguins are going backwards. They're going to the Bus family, away from what the Lakers now have. They realize that, okay, we can't contend even with a cap in our sport with people and all their money, so we're going to give it to a guy with more money and then kind of just run things. That's not really going on here. It's their money, they're running it. So do you need some tinkering of this in years? Does somebody else need to come aboard and join in?
Does he wear number 66?
Right. Like,
throwing that out there.
Do they need a governorship who earns some money and let me just kind of make the decisions now and help you if you need more cash? Like, that could be a concern that I feel like is getting overshadowed by this team winning. No one, but if this team was losing, that would probably be a story you'd be writing right now. Is this the beginning of the end of the run, even before Crosby retires, because the money's not there, negative things, about the pocketbooks of the future ownership group, even though, great people, but that type of great person, mom and pop ownership, I can't even think of another example that's doing well in pro sports today. Like, that's going away.
Like, that's how the Rooney family started. And even though everyone complains that they're cheap, right? They're fabulously wealthy, but they're not wealthy compared to some NFL owners.
That's what I'm trying to say, right? That's what I'm trying to say. If there was no salary cap in the NFL, the Steelers would be the Pirates. Like, that's the level of financial situation. They are obviously, and so are the Genie Bus. They're very, very wealthy to all of us. But if we're talking about in comparison to their peers, they are in the bottom tier.
Not Jerry Jones. I mean, it's
right. Like, and having all the money of God does not guarantee you anything, bringing up Jerry Jones again, but but it certainly makes it easier. It certainly helps out.
And the Penguins have that with Fenway, and they had it with Ron Burkle too.
Right.
I mean, so this is an interesting spot.
You had a situation where all the money, the best players, people would want to come aboard just to play with the best players and be willing to take less when it wasn't even necessary. And you also had a parity-driven sport because of what happened in those lockouts. You get here, and, that may be for a conversation for another day, but it's something to keep note on, especially when Crosby retires and Malkin's gone, and it is a complete new era. And then maybe if Lemieux does not return and it is just completely kind of an unknown for the fans on who is now leading their team, unless they hit the jackpot again in the draft, which based on the history of the franchise certainly could occur, that, that's could be a possibility of the future of this team. Josh Yohe here of The Athletic, mic drop. Mike Asti here as we're talking the Penguins surprise season. Were you at all surprised that Crosby got so choked up when they were celebrating and honoring the 2016 Cup champion team, and even comments from him that this is a special one amongst all of his rings? I mean, I'm not saying he loves this child more than the others, but it almost felt like that title, which was kind of shutting up doubters after he won it early and then they had that slide, maybe means a little bit more. He was Conn Smythe. He didn't win that in 09. Like, that seems to mean a lot more to him. He didn't get choked up every other time they've honored, past great teams, but this one really got to him.
Maybe I was a little surprised. I mean, he's getting to be a little bit of a softie in his old age. It's not.
Is he reflecting back? Like, this is the last time I'm going to be an active player honoring this team for sure.
It's funny. I've talked with him about all of those Cup teams, and the 09 one was his first, and he was a kid, and that was special. And the 17 one, I think, was special. They did it back to back, but also without Letang, and they were so exhausted. They just
doing the back to back thing, like that's different. Like,
I mean, they were out of gas, and they still did it. Like, that was an incredible achievement. But the 16 team was their best team, I think. And also, you're right. People now forget they went 6 straight postseasons getting eliminated. And, the talk at that time was, Sid's a one-hit Sid's a one-hit wonder. Gino's a one-hit wonder. They can't. They've lost their way. They don't know how to win in the playoffs anymore. And they took that to heart. That they knew how great those teams were in 11, 12, 13. Those rosters they had were incredible. They didn't win, and so when they finally got back to the top of the mountain, they took a moment to enjoy how sweet it tasted. And I think that one will always have a special place for them.
Seems like it.
Because of it. Yeah.
It seems like it. And of course he knows that, regardless of how many more years are in front, that the beginning of the end is near. So it does seem like we're getting a little different Sidney Crosby this year, that he passes Lemieux, honors the 2016 team, cries while doing so. The comments outside the season ticket holder's house. It almost seems like that he's both content with his legacy, but also realizes there's not as much runway in front of this thing. Like, after 09 and a few of those disappointments, he knew, outside of his injury issue, once he got healthy and knew he could play, I got more bites of the apple here. He probably knows there's not too many more bites at this apple. Like, maybe this might even be the last bite of legit trying to win a Cup apple, because teams are going to retool, and who knows the situation next year. This is a weird year that you mentioned, that everybody is going to argue they have a chance, and every star player on a lot of teams is going to go to management and say, I want you to buy. I mean, Columbus is even one of them. Look what's going on recently. Like, you're going to have teams you wouldn't have dreamed would be in this scenario that are going to buy, and it could result in almost nobody buying, because you have to make it worthwhile for these sellers, the few that are in existence, and maybe they might wait to the summer when it's not like this. But we'll see. I mean, maybe the Penguins will sneak up in there and be the team.
Maybe. When you look at the Penguins too, nobody wants to hear this, but there's no guarantee that Malkin and Carlson or even Crosby at his age will be this good next season.
Oh, sure.
There's no guarantee you're going to get goaltending this good next season.
Odds are probably you don't. I'm honestly, especially the older players with Malkin, it's probably odds are eventually that dips out. Yeah.
Like, the East is terrible, but listen, there's one great team in the East on paper. That's Tampa. What if they get upset by Montreal in the second round? That could happen. You don't know. So, I mean, listen, it's crazy to say it, but they're almost a lock to be a playoff team now. And I always say this, Mike, if Sid would ever be in a position where he could win a round or two and he could just sniff it one last time, I'm telling you, his game will go to a different place. I really believe that.
It's true.
I look forward to writing about it. I don't know if they can make a legitimate run, but the more I watch this team play, the more I think it's not impossible. And my God, what a story it would be.
Yeah, and they've been not that Crosby hasn't been playing well, but they've been able to win, and they've been able to show they can win without him having to dominate. That's even what happened early in his career. He doesn't have to carry them, right? It's not going to be an MVP year for him. Earlier in the season, he was on that great goal stretch, but the team wasn't good enough, and that's why the talk was is it even doing him a service to have him around with this team, not a contender? He clearly wants to stay. We don't have to really get into that. Obviously, he wants to stay. Doesn't going to go anywhere while they're winning. That was mostly, much ado about the Canadian media wanting some drama. But especially if they're winning. And maybe if they just would be, a 10-win team and admit and tell them in a meeting, we're just not going to try. That might be a different conversation. But as long as this is the case, it's not even worth talking about. But then you add in that they're able to win without him dominating and winning even with people being out of the lineup. It is an interesting situation here. It's impossible for me to sit here and predict the cup run. But when you look at the conference, there's really no one that scares you if you're the Pittsburgh Penguins outside of maybe Tampa. And I am sure Crosby's not scared of them either. Like, anyone's vulnerable, and Crosby is that one player that for sure could turn it on for a couple weeks. And he's also a type of player, as you know, Josh, that he obviously wants to win the cup and win the whole thing. But if you tell him, you can win a round or two and then lose, or you just don't get in at all. He wants to get in and win a round or two. He doesn't just want to not get in at all. There are some fans that have that, let's just rebuild and not even try. He made it clear with those preseason comments. I want to take this as far as humanly possible every year before I am done.
That's right.
That maybe won't be the cup every year. Of course, it hasn't been. But I'm not punting anything for a draft pick when I retire.
I would also suggest that they will be playing with house money if they make the playoffs. Like, there's not really any pressure.
Yeah, I mean, that's already ahead of expectations.
If they make the playoffs, just making the playoffs is a great story. Okay, nobody
100%.
expected it. So I don't think they would have to deal with the pressure that maybe they dealt with in 2012 when they had the best roster in hockey and they were starting to get a reputation for being choke artists. So I don't – who knows what the future holds, but it has been an incredible ride through, what has it been, 4 months of the season now or whatever it's been. I mean – nobody saw it coming, but they have been spectacular. They might have the general manager of the year, they might have the coach of the year, and it's just they keep getting better.
Josh Yohe of The Athletic, mic drop here, talking Penguins. One more before I kind of want to ask you maybe a historical question that's happened this year. I want to go in that neighborhood. But before we get there, you mentioned maybe having the coach of the year, and you mentioned his impact on this team. I will tell you, for most people that I've talked to, and this goes back to when he was hired, and honestly, even some of our colleagues that kind of were in this boat, maybe thinking that he was kind of a bridge coach. Okay, great guy, has a track record, could be a solid coach for this group, but a lot of talk of maybe he'll be the Michel Therrien of this, where he'll take them so far, but somebody else will be lifting the cup whenever they get to that point again, with or without Crosby. Maybe he'll get a year or two, maybe he'll get 3 or 4 years, but he's going to take them through this journey, and then someone else will stamp it. It almost sounds like you're saying that, no, this could be a guy who's there for the long haul with Dubas. He could be the guy that could get this done. He is that great of a coach, and maybe he was also being underestimated before the season, which has been the theme, I guess, of fans and media from the offseason.
Yeah, I don't really buy into the concept of bridge coaches, because NHL coaches get fired every 2 or 3 years anyway.
Sure, they do.
I don't even know what bridge coach. I mean, I know what you're asking. Why you're asking that. Everybody.
I don't mean that they went into the hiring him saying we're going to intentionally make him the bridge coach, but that was a comment people would say, that they believed that whenever they got really good again, that he would no longer be the coach.
And that might be the case. I don't know. But it's interesting that they brought him in because of, historically he specializes dealing with young players.
Sure.
And you're going to have a ton of young players.
Seemed like a rebuilding coach is where I'm going. It seemed like
and
that
yet,
guy. Yeah.
Other than Ben Kindle, really, this is not a young team.
No?
There's a lot of veterans on this team, and he is working awfully well with those veterans, isn't he?
Sure.
Evgeny Malkin's playing his best hockey in 5 years, isn't he? Like, I don't know how much the coach even has to do with that, but obviously he's doing something right. He has the respect of the veterans in the room. It's quite clear to me.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I mean, maybe he will be out of here in a couple of years and they'll bring in someone else, because that happens all the time. But maybe Kyle Dubas uncovered a star. Like, I was having, got to do a name drop. I was having breakfast the other day with Jim Rutherford.
I saw your uncle,
he looks at me, he says, I didn't know who Dan Muse was, but that guy's probably going to win Coach of the Year. Like, he's really good.
But that's what I mean. I mean, you're talking about a Hall of Fame executive who I was underestimating. It's not just crazy fans here. Like, that was kind of the perception of Dan Muse, 43 years old, has a track record of young players. It almost screamed to me, Josh, not so much even the bridge thing, because yeah, you can even be a great coach. We've even seen this happen with legendary coaches. They take a
Mhm.
team so far in
Mhm.
hockey. Management is very knee jerk. Somebody else comes in, wins a cup. You're thinking to yourself, they probably might have done it anyway if they didn't fire the coach. Like that's just how the NHL has been. But in this scenario, it felt like that he was the guy that would be there when at this deadline they would trade Eric Carlson, they get some draft picks, they would get younger, and then he would guide them through a couple years that if they got in the playoffs at all, then Dubas would maybe, buy him some wine when he has to go get the next coach to win the cup. It now appears like that might have been an unfair commentary about him because yes, he still could get fired as anybody could because the more they win, especially if they win a series or two this year, the expectations for next year are going to be even higher and maybe the casual fans will return from game one. But it just the perception of him from before the season and even upon the hiring to now is wildly different. And again, I mean, for Jim Rutherford to say that, I mean, for him to admit that, that kind of lends credence that it was not just unreasonable fan take, that was the commentary, and yet
No,
we're here.
no, he has been much like the team he coaches. He's been a great story, and
Yeah. They may all
hey,
love this
listen,
too. It's everyone's proving everybody wrong. Everybody, even Crosby. Like that's the
and
theme. That's how
they're
you're getting
getting better.
together and galvanizing each other. Yeah.
They're getting better. And I can't think of a game all season when I said afterwards, boy, they mailed it in tonight. They didn't play hard. Like, they play
Right.
hard for this guy every night. That's half the battle.
Yeah, 100%. And you have Hall of Fame players bought in. So even though Malkin just
Yes.
might be finding the fountain of youth because he's very, very talented and maybe he's more motivated and he does it all on his own, when you get to a player of that level who sees his days with the franchise numbered, if he thought this was a bridge coach that he didn't believe in, you could see a difference of that type of player that, yeah, he's going to play
Right.
hard, but he's not going to, kill himself for somebody who thinks he's going to get fired soon and he's probably not going to be around. It feels like that Malkin to everybody, they're almost playing in a way to prove a point. You should bring us all back. You should figure it out. You should try to do this again. Like we're all
Yeah.
good still. Like
Oh,
this
especially with
again
Malkin.
that
And
has to clearly
like,
be, yeah.
Gino doesn't talk with the media that often, but when he does, like, he goes out of his way to bring up his contract, like, every time. Like, there's a defiance about him right now. You want to
Yeah.
force me into retirement? No, no, no. I'm not going to let you do that. I mean, you can
Well, he was
absolutely say
aware of even the comment. There are still people that think they should have traded him 4 years ago. like that's been the story of Malkin for a
right.
long time. And there have been other declining players that didn't get talked about as much. So Malkin, I'm sure, does hear that. Josh Yohe of The Athletic here again on Mic Drop. And what I do want to ask to kind of close this particular show, and we'll definitely have to have you back, and we'll see where this team is a couple weeks from now and after the Olympics. As I mentioned earlier, Sidney Crosby passed Mario Lemieux for the points record with the franchise, and that spurned a conversation of if Crosby is now the greatest Penguin of all time. Obviously, Lemieux's legacy is more than just as a player. We mentioned him as an owner and literally saving the franchise and City in a way. So he means a lot to a lot of people. And you're even older than me, not to date you, so you even got to see more of him as a
Well,
fan before you started covering. You got the grizzly beard there, and I still have mine shaved off. Maybe I'm trying to fool people here. I had a recent birthday. But the point of it is, Crosby now has more points, has more cups. Lemieux still has him on some individual awards. Lemieux did do this in 400 fewer games. Crosby's going to certainly end up with a lot more games played, and they both dealt with injuries, but of course, Lemieux dealt with cancer and retired for several years. That makes it a little different here. It's not a complete parallel or fair comparison, but is Sidney Crosby right now the greatest Penguin of all time? Is that fair to say? Is it still Lemieux? What do you think maybe even the Penguins think of that conversation, or even amongst the two of them that you can give us? I don't know how relevant it is, but the fans care about that. That was talked about a lot when Crosby passed Lemieux, especially then.
I think it's a matter of how you word it.
Sure.
I will say the same thing about this when I'm asked about Lemieux versus Gretzky. I always say Lemieux versus Gretzky. Well, Gretzky had the better, more accomplished career.
Yeah.
Mario was a better player. Like, if you ever saw them play, like, he was. And I kind of say the same thing with Mario and Sid. Like, Sid has maybe had the better career. He's won more. He's accomplished more. He's
Have
played
to
a
say
heck of a
that.
lot more. So if that's
Yeah.
your definition of it, then okay. But not a better player, like not even close. And that's not a knock on Sid. Like Sid's one of the 5 best players ever. But that Mario was just,
Yeah.
I don't compare anyone to him in terms of just pure physical hockey talent. And what Mario meant to the city, it's never been done. To save a
No,
franchise
I mean,
numerous times. So I can't rank Sid ahead of Mario. And at the same time, I hold Sid in the highest of regard. I truly believe he's one of the 5 greatest players who ever lived. And I don't know that there's been a better ambassador for the game of hockey or for Pittsburgh sports ever. And I mean that sincerely.
100%,
So they're just
100%. I mean,
they're just
name me the
different.
scandal. There hasn't been
Yeah,
one. I
right.
mean, I mean, like that's the thing. Like, there, Sidney Crosby that's almost the greatest accomplishment that he has managed to go so long. And part of it is he doesn't put his personal life out there on Front Street like everyone knows everyone's personal life in pro sports. But part of it is, I also think there's a credit to Crosby and the respect that everybody has for him, that there's really nobody, because this happens in certain media markets, there's nobody on the beat or even in media in general, even a fan, who's trying to find the scandal, that's trying to put dirt on, not that it exists, but you know what I mean. There are people that in other cities that if they had a Crosby example, they would be sitting there 20 years in saying, we got to figure something out here. There's something going on. Like they would try to make a name for themselves, try to figure something out. But it doesn't seem like anybody wants to go down that road. Like just Crosby he's just Teflon and bulletproof in that regard. And Lemieux the same way, but Crosby even more so. I mean, even more so.
I've covered the guy for more than 16 years now. And this is not meant to be hyperbolic. He might honestly be the most decent human being I've ever met in my life. Like he's different than anyone you'll ever meet. He really is. The way he treats people, the way he treats children. I see him after games all the time with kids in wheelchairs. Like a lot of people in wheelchairs want to meet him.
Yeah.
And he always literally gets down on his hands and knees so he's on eye level with them and he talks with them. He'll talk to them for an hour after games. Like he doesn't just do the whole here, hi, nice to meet you, here's an autograph.
He's very different than today's athlete. Like very different. And he
is so genuine. I mean, there's different than anyone else.
Name another superstar this city has ever had that has been, not to say other people haven't been good guys, because that'll be a reply. Like, oh, I talked to this, athlete in another sport 20 years ago. He was friends with me and my kid. Well, great. Yeah. But like, I mean, Crosby is just different. There's just a difference of him. It's even hard to fully articulate him as a person, in him as a person and him as a player, marrying the two together. We've seen some great people be great athletes in this city. That does not mean they're a top 5 all-timer in their sport while being a great guy. That's the thing. He's putting it all together. And when Barry Bonds has played here. We've seen great players play here who maybe are top 5 in their sport all time. That's not the perception of him even as a person, getting away from anything else on the field. But it is with Crosby. The only people that dislike Crosby are rival fans. Like that's it. It almost, that's it.
And they're just jealous. Let's be honest. And even like hockey players have a reputation for being nice guys to deal with, and they are. But even compared to other superstars around the league, I won't name names, but I mean, most of them are polite. They'll give you the time of day. Like Sid actually asks if you're having a good day, and he actually means it. Like he's a different kind of guy. Pittsburgh is incredibly blessed that he's been wearing the C for almost 20 years. I'm telling you, he is. I always tell people you can feel comfortable buying your kid a Sidney Crosby jersey for Christmas. Like he's the real deal. And
every year, forever. And that's the thing, that the Penguins, I'm sure, are going to draft another great player at some point. And even if it's not right away, whenever Crosby retires, there's enough of an interest with the franchise. They will eventually figure something out and eventually be good again, even if not to that level with Crosby. But it doesn't mean that person is going to be the same. I mean, you have to think of it this way too. When Lemieux was in his prime, or even when Lemieux saved the franchise, or when Lemieux meant so much to that organization for 20 plus years, during that period before drafting Crosby, or even when Crosby first came aboard, there was nobody that would have ever thought that in terms of just as a nice guy who was beloved to the city, that anybody would touch him, even if they were a better player somehow. But Crosby is arguing in every aspect of it. That's what's crazy. And really the only thing he's not done yet is buy the franchise and save them from bankruptcy.
Give him time.
Yeah, give him time, and I am sure he's such a nice guy that if that's ever an issue, as we talked about with mom and pop owners, Crosby they would step up and be like, I'm not, they're not going to Kansas City on my watch, even if I'm long and retired. So that's the unique part here. And where I think I do agree with you, and this is just something that I think everybody evaluates all-time players wrong across sports, really. And I don't know if it's ever going to be fixed. I think there's a difference between the term greatest and the term best. Like, Jerry Rice is the greatest receiver of NFL history. He's not necessarily the best. I don't know if his prime was. He's very Gretzky like.
Numbers, but he wasn't like, Randy Moss was more talented.
Right, like Randy. You could even argue Terrell Owens and ask him; he'll tell you. Like you could argue other players were more talented players. If we're talking, pure on talent, it's even like LeBron Jordan. If you're talking about pure on talent, LeBron's had the better career. Like there's not even a debate of this. He's played forever. He's done everything. He has all the records. He beat Kareem's record for crying out loud. But
nobody from my generation would say he's better than Jordan.
Nope. Nobody would say that, right? So like maybe when one's the greatest and one's the best, maybe that's how the compromise is here. Maybe Gretzky had the greatest career and is the greatest hockey player of all time, but Lemieux is the best. And maybe Crosby's the greatest Penguin, but Lemieux's still the best. Like maybe that's really where this goes. Rice is the greatest, but Moss or T.O. or Moss is the best. Right. I mean,
the fact that Pittsburgh has had two of these guys to cheer for a total of like 40 years, it's not bad.
Yeah, it's not bad, and it's not bad, and it also it makes you wonder too. It's not bad, but you said it earlier. The fact that we're debating on how much interest is there, and the attendance numbers giving you 4,000 empty seats. It's a little spoiled then too. Like it's a little spoiled. I get the situation there with tickets, and I get the traffic, and you do. I do have to wonder what these numbers would be, even with everything else being equal, if people that wanted to do my parking hacks would feel safe doing that. Like I wouldn't take my wife and kids do it in that park over there. So like that's the thing. Like where you put the rink certainly lets you to this situation, and we will see what the numbers are when Crosby retires. But yeah, I mean, there's a tinge of being spoiled as well, and I'm sure they both respect each other, and they may not even care about this conversation. But it is very possible that one is the greatest and one is the best. And,
I would agree.
Whatever term you want to use, but that's kind of where it is here. Josh, I appreciate the time for sure. And before I let you go, is there any news you want to break here on Mic Drop, or anything you want to tease, or anything you want to give us? I know you did talk about the Penguins are very upset about the Russ suspension, comparing that to Tom Wilson did recently.
I would love to tease like some big story that I have coming up, but the truth is the NHL schedule is so compressed right now that like all I do is write about games every single day because they're playing every single day. So I'm just writing about a bunch of games this week, but it's going to be fun. Ottawa tonight, and then couple of showdowns to end the first half at the Islanders and at Buffalo, one of the hottest teams in the league. So it's actually going to be a really fun week. It's just kind of cool to have like actual big regular season games coming up. It's been a while.
Yeah, big regular season games coming up, the Olympics coming up, and then big regular season games for like 2 months in a row. It's pretty much every night, big regular season games for 2 months in a row.
It looks like then the really big games are coming. So
and then it does look like there's going to be some big games. The weather will be warmer. People won't mind walking. The prices will still be what they are, but like the team will be better, and they'll be in the playoffs.
Mike Asti parking spots. It'll be great.
Maybe you can park over there. Yeah, who knows? But yeah, I appreciate the time, Josh. This team for sure is above expectations, and we will see how it goes the rest of the season. But there's a lot of reason for all levels of Penguin fandom to check in on this.
Absolutely,
this team.
My pleasure. Always fun talking puck with you. So anytime.
Absolutely, I still owe you a beer sometime, so I appreciate it, man. Josh Yohe of The Athletic. Always appreciate talking with him. Had him on myriad of shows over the years, and no one covers this team and knows this team better than Josh Yohe to me of The Athletic. Again, Mike Asti here with Mic Drop as we just talk some Penguins hockey above expectations is almost an understatement now. Yeah, a playoff lock, 85%, whatever metric you want to give them. They're going to be there. It's then going to be wide open. They could then beat anybody. That has to be what they're thinking. It could be a fun final couple months of the season into the summer after that Olympic break, and we'll see how that impacts things as well. Again, thanks to Josh Yohe of The Athletic for joining me. This has been another edition of Mic Drop here on Believe and available everywhere you get your podcasts and on SiriusXM.